but also for the rest of the year. So before we get started, I just want to give you a quick briefing on Furoshiki. And it's the Japanese style of gift wrapping using textile, which makes it very eco-friendly and very sustainable. Most of them are crafted from natural fabrics, and it has been part of Japanese culture for centuries. All the way back from dynasty times, it was a thing of the royals, and originally it had the crest of the family printed on the textile. And now over time, it has more accessibility to all demographics. So everything is done with a piece of fabric. There are two ways. There's Furoshiki, which is a square like this. And then there is another presentation that you can do with a rectangular piece like this. And the technicality is a different name. This is called tenogui. And I will be showing how to wrap with those, as well as accessorizing and enhancing with some decor, so you can jazz up things a little bit more. And here is a quick already made show and tell. This is a square shape with the 4 petals, so that's one option. Then this one is like an envelope style, and you have room here in this compartment, so you can add, for example, a cash gift, a check, or a greeting card. So for example, if you're gonna be perhaps gifting a frame for an anniversary and you want to add a little cash or a greeting card, this is a great option. And then this one here, it's a double wrap, and you end with a double knot on the front. And this is ideal also for books as well as picture frames. There are many different kinds of sizes, shapes, prints, so you can go wild and flamboyant. And also, if you have any leftover fabrics, perhaps from your prom dress, or if somebody in the family gave a hand down and the fabric has some sentimental value, you can repurpose. And just make sure that you're gonna end up with a square or a rectangular. Finish the ends so it doesn't shred the material with the wear and tear. And ideally, it's a print or a type of fabric that it looks like double-sided, and it doesn't have a back like this one. I will make it work, but ideally, you get something that it wouldn't show the back. It's more even colors on both sides of the fabric. So I'm going to undo this one and then wrap it back again, so you have an idea of what is supposed to look like, and then how to reverse engineer it and do this particular wrapping. So this one is a traditional square box of cookies, tin can. So you place the item in the center of the furoshiki and off the side, so it's not even square up with the rest of the fabric. And you're going to bring the 2 ends first, and you're going to do a knot. And the trick is always to keep it tight with a good tension. So this is the first part of the wrapping. So it looks like this. Then the 2 opposite sides, you're going to bring it meeting the center of the box, and you're going to do a double knot. And always keep the tension and adjust as you go. And part of the Japanese tradition is that you pay attention to the details and you always finish off the piece folding the ends of the fabric so it looks like petals. So one thing that you can do in addition to this, for example, in this case, it's a dark fabric, it's a little bit festive, but monochrome. So if you want to add an accent, you can, for example, bring a clip-on decor like from the Christmas tree and just place it on top.
We have a question, if you don't mind me asking.
Yes.
What should the size ratio of the material to the object be wrapped? So like how much bigger than the object should the material be?
So it can be 27 inches square and bigger, but also you have to be mindful of what's the object that you want to be wrapping. Because if I tell you, well, a standard is, for example, 33 inches square, but you have a small item like this, then it's gonna be too much fabric left over. So you have to keep in mind kind of a proportion between object and the fabric. So you can decorate and ornate at the end without having too much extra and then the item getting lost in the fabric. So average is the size of the bandana or a square of about 27 inches square. And I am going to check, for example, this item here. So this one that I have right now, it's 20.5 inches. So this is more like a bandana size, and it will be suitable for a box like this or something like this. So the round box is 4 inches in diameter by 4 inches in height. And the square wooden box is 5 inches on one side and 8 inches on the other side. So I will say kind of 3 times the size of the item that you are wrapping. So this one is 4 by 8, and this one is 20.5 squares. So that gives you a good idea if you want to make your own. Any other questions? So this one is the square box. And again, you can enhance the presentation by adding a clip-on ornament, and it makes it a little bit more festive. Also, another thing that you have to keep in mind with the furoshiki is the intention and the occasion. So I have a collection of many different kinds, from silk style to pure cotton. Also, I have a blend of textiles on the fabric between synthetic and organic. The benefit on the blend is that it doesn't wrinkle as much, so you don't have to press it. That's also one thing that I have to point out in regards to Japanese culture. They are very neat and very meticulous. So if you're going to do a gift wrapping and you are using natural fabrics, make sure that you take the time to either steam it or press it with a regular iron, so it's free of wrinkles. So this is the first style on the Japanese wrapping. Now I'm going to change for a double bottle because that's always kind of festive if you're going to go to a dinner party or you are going to meet some friends for drinks and you are providing some of the refreshments. This is a way how to do a nice presentation. So the fact that the fabric is a rectangular shape, this makes it a tenugui, is not a furoshiki. So you have the rectangular piece, you're going to place either 2 cans or 2 bottles, and you're going to leave a little bit of a space in between. And you wrap it like this. So just roll the cylinder, then bring it in. And you're going to do a double knot. So with the rectangular fabric, it's going to leave you the loose piece of the fabric ending like a bow, and it looks almost like an obi sash, which is the traditional accessory for the ladies wearing a kimono. And always pay attention to the details at the end. And because it has a double knot, it can serve as a handle as well, and you transport it easily. If you're going to do, for example, a display, one thing that you can do to jazz it up a little bit is to add a pair of chopsticks. And this particular set, it was a gift from a friend of mine, and it has the shape of samurai swords, which I love because I am very passionate about martial arts and bladed weapons. So this is kind of the in-house joke between my friend and myself. So then you can slide it through the 2 knots. And that makes a different presentation. Similar fashion will apply. I'm going to do a different shape of container. And this one is going to give me a different look, and I'm going to end up with much more extra fabric because the proportion between the 2 bottles and the rectangular is much greater. So again, you place the bottles first standing upright, leave a space in between, and then you do the wrapping. So one variation that you can do in this case, since we're going to end up with a lot of fabric, after you do the double knot, you can make it a ring with the extra fabric, and that gives you slightly different presentation. Actually, I'm going to undo one. So that gives me a more balanced ending. And you always take care of the ending piece of the fabric and fluff it off a little bit, so it looks like petals. And this is another option for a double bottle. Anybody has any questions so far? So another quick option for a larger size bottle, let's say that you're going to a dinner party and you're bringing a bottle of wine. So you place the furoshiki on a diamond shape. You are going to place the bottle in the middle. Have handy a rubber band. So you place the bottle in the center. You're going to bring the two ends. Then bring the other two ends. And make sure that the natural fold that you are getting from gathering the fabric and the four corners on the top, they're going to be sort of going on the same direction, whatever direction you pick. Always keep the tension. And then I'm going to use the rubber band and do a double pass. One of the advantages of using furoshiki is that you don't have to worry about tape or getting the wrapping material wrinkle, because the fabric is going to be flexible and follow any shape. So here I have this much kind of loose and straight up. So I'm going to fold like petals and tuck it in underneath the rubber band. So you hide the mechanics. That's also a key in Japanese culture. You don't leave things visible to the eye. So you hide the pins, the mechanics, the rubber band, and keep it always graceful. So on this one, I'm pinching between the two rounds of the rubber band, and it gives you like a petal. And it's gonna be pretty much artist choice. You're never gonna have two alike, and it's gonna depend on how much fabric you have left and how do you decide to do the fold.
Someone wants to know where you got that fabric.
This one was a long time ago, actually, from a fabric store in South Florida where I used to live, and I had a seamstress making it into a furoshiki. So it's a blend between synthetic and natural fabric, and it has a little bit of a texture, so you don't have to worry about the wrinkles. It's very versatile on that sense. But I don't remember what was exactly the type of fabric. So this is a very effective and not time consuming how to do a gift wrap presentation for a bottle of wine. Also, if you want to jazz it up a little bit, one thing that you can do is, for example, I have this tassel here. Before I do the folding, I could have placed the tassel, but I'm just going to slide it in. And that's a little accent that you can add to the presentation to make it more tasteful and appealing. So this is another way how to do a bottle. Let's see. Well, since the library is hosting the event, I'm going to show how to wrap a few books. So I'm going to get 2 hardcover books. I'm going to show 2 different ways how to do a stack of books. So this one is very simple, but very graceful. So you have your stack of books. You place the fabric on a diamond shape. The stack of books, you place it sort of in the middle. So once you gauge the dimensions on the book and the furoshiki, you can play with the placement a little bit. So I'm just going to move it more to one side. And I'm going to tuck the fabric kind of like a sandwich between the last book and the next one. And keep some tension going here. Then I'm going to bring these 2 ends and do a double knot. Again, make sure that the corners are properly placed and kind of fluff off a little bit. And then this one, it has extra fabric, but that's part of the design. So you have a little triangle. And you are ready to go and return your book's curbside service for the library. Another option, this one gives you kind of a look similar to a purse. So always try to keep the fabric straight and without any wrinkles. So I need some gap in between. So I leave like that much space between the 2 books and then sort of reverse it. And I always like to press the fabric with the gift. If it's a book, I try to put a little bit of the fabric between the pages of the book because that's going to keep better tension. So we have this space here. We bring the fabric together this way. And we're going to slide it through the middle, this gap that we left. So you fold it, and this is going to give you the handle. So this is another way how to do books. Any questions so far?
Someone asked, I believe they're referring to the actual fabric. Can you buy them already made, or do you have to make them? So I think in when you're referring to something as a Furoshiki, like, is that like, can you buy that?
Okay, so there are two approaches to the Furoshiki. One, you can make your own if you're crafty and you want to upcycle, recycle, repurpose fabrics that you already have in your possession. But also they are specialty stores and gift shops that they carry Furoshiki and they are specially made as such. For example, this item here, this is a limited edition from a Canadian graphic designer. The print is very Japanese, and it came like on a kit with a ribbon, so you can do some accents, and it came with the card matching the fabric. So this one was purchased from a specialty store. You can go either way. Furoshiki, it can go from $15 retail all the way up to $800 if it's pure silk. So there's different price points. Some materials are very elaborated with beautiful print. And actually, there's a whole culture and way of wrapping. So if the fabric, the Furoshiki, has a double side, depending on how you're doing the wrapping, you can end up with an accent, for example, on a rectangular piece with a different print on the side. So you can get very fancy and very elaborated if you go to a specialty store. In Japan, there are actually especially design retail stores that it's all around Furoshiki. And they have people on site demonstrating ongoing different ways how to use their goods for souvenirs and take, as presents for different occasions. So you can go either way. You can make your own or you can purchase it. I do have here locally a Japanese designer. She actually gifted me this item. And this is a vintage Furoshiki. The print is only on one side and it's kind of white on the backing. And this came from an airline. So if you see the print, and I'm going to get closer to the camera, it shows the airplane, the back of the airplane, the different parts of the aircraft, and some traditional Japanese designs and symbols. So this one, it can get a little bit challenging to work with because you have to manipulate the fabric in a way that is not going to show to the eye the backing, because it's not that desirable. So you have to be more mindful on the folding and how you do the knotting. So always is showing the print and the pretty side of the textile. And while I have this one on hand, I'm gonna work.
I have another interesting question.
Yes.
If in Japan, when you receive a gift that's wrapped this way, what does the recipient do with the fabric? Do they get to keep it? Do they reuse it? Like, what happens after they get the gift?
Okay, this is a great question, and I'm happy that somebody approached that. So there are two ways how to go about it. And since we are here in Massachusetts, you can go either way and always share a little bit of storytelling with the recipient. So number one option is that you can make the furoshiki part of the gift itself. Let's say that, for example, I have a relative who's going to be moving out of state to attend college. And I might buy one of the books for the first semester, wrap it on a furoshiki, maybe include a little check in there for college funds. And then the furoshiki is going to go with the person for good. So it becomes part of the gift. That's one option. But on the daily basics, the way that it works, and this is going to be a little bit humorous, is sort of Tupperware style here in America, that you give it to the person is going to take the goods and then returns it to you, and usually with something in it as a gesture of appreciation, returning back the furoshiki to you. So, for example, if I go to a dinner party and I'm bringing the bottle of wine, then next time I see my friend, I might get the furoshiki bag with a box of chocolates or a bento box or some other kind of goods, maybe an accessory. So there's no limitations on what you place in the furoshiki to be returned to the owner, but the protocol is that you wrap something and you're going to return the furoshiki to the person who gave it to you with a present. So those are the two options. And usually you will say to the person, if they are not familiar with the furoshiki culture, and a graceful way, it will be to say, hey, I have something to share with you. I attended this play shop and I learned how to do the gift wrapping with textiles. So I'm going to give you your favorite book for Christmas, but whenever you're done with the wrapping, then you have to return to me with something wrapped in there. So you might end up getting something like a box of cookies or something simple. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or too fancy, just a gesture that's going to be returned to you with something in it already wrapped. Any other question? So I'm going to do kind of odd shape. So this is an hexagon. And you place the box in the middle.
One more quick question.
Yes.
Jen asked, could you use a silk scarf?
You can, but these are the two things that you have to take note. Are you expecting the scarf to be returned to you, or the scarf is part of the gift? That's number one. And number two, if you are going to use the scarf to transport the gift and the gift is heavy, you are going to have a big risk of damaging the fabric. So you have to be mindful on the proportion of the thickness of the material and what are you transporting. Like for example, here I have 2 books. So if the books are heavy and I have a thin silk scarf, that's not going to be suitable. So I wouldn't go that route. But yes, you can certainly use bandana, you can use a scarf, you can use a square piece of fabric. You can actually reuse a part of a kimono, of a sari, if you have any of those like cultural garments. So there are many different things that you can do in regards to the use of fabric. Any other question? So for this shape, I'm going to have a rubber band handy. I place the item sort of in the middle. I bring the 4 corners up to the top. Always adjust the fabric around the item and keep the tension. So I'm going to use the rubber band. Do 2 passes. Actually, I'm going to do 3 because I have plenty of room here. And you always want to keep the tension. So you have all these extra. There are few ways how you can go about it. So one, you can just kind of twirl the fabric a little bit beforehand. And then tuck it in on the opposite side with the fabric, with the rubber band, and hide it with the fabric. And this is something suitable for any age, which I love, as well as any gender. For example, if I'm going to present a gift to a male friend or a fellow performer, I have a particular selection of furoshiki for gift wrapping. So this one, it looks a little bit like the swirl on the candy cane, which is kind of Christmassy and festive. Any other questions?
Yes, there is a question. Someone wants to know how you became interested in this and how did you learn to do it?
Oh, so my personal story here is that part of my heritage is Japanese. And that kind of got hush-hush in the family tree at some point. And I started to kind of do my soul search, and I found out about that part of the family. So that was one of the factors that sparked my interest. But also, my uncle on my mother's side, he was in the diplomatic works, and he actually lived in Japan. So before I was born, he came back from his travels and he spent a lot of time with my mother. And he taught her about ikebana, which is the Japanese art of floral design, and the interest on the different textiles and fashion. So that kind of got passed down to me later on in the years. And then in 2006, I was living in South Florida at the time. I got heavily involved with an organization called the Morikami Japanese Garden and Museum. And I was part of the performing group for the annual festivals. And I was very involved in all their educational programs. So I got more involved hands-on on the different arts. So I practiced ikebana. I did some Japanese calligraphy with the writing of kanjis. I got very passionate about furoshiki because it's so charming, sustainable, eco-friendly, and it's just a lot of fun to play with fabrics, and you don't have to worry about any waste or damaging the wrapping paper, which sometimes can be a little bit frustrating if you are not too skillful on that art. And then it just adds a little something to bring the party on anywhere you go. You can look like a rock star and make conversation with anybody at any given time by having a furoshiki on hand. So it's a combination of many different things. I have been doing these educational programs since 2007. And I have been very fortunate that I got attention from the Consulate General of Japan in Miami. So they were sponsoring and promoting my endeavors for 2 consecutive years when I lived in South Florida before I relocated to Massachusetts. And I have been very fortunate to share this craft with people in 10 different states. So I'm very passionate about it. And now with the virtual world being so wide open, it brings things to a different level. So I can go even wider on sharing my craft with people out of states as well. So it's a wonderful thing, and I don't have to travel as much. So that's kind of the highlight of how I end up doing this. Any other question? So I'm going to show how to do a handbag. So I'm going to go for a bigger size furoshiki. So this is kind of more heavy duty and much larger size. This one is, so you can have an idea what I'm working with. This is 43.5 inches square. So I'm going to clear out the table here and show you a few tricks. So one way, and this is what you will see at a market in Japan, the ladies going out shopping, you don't see like shopping bags, you see a lot of fabrics. So how you do kind of eco-friendly shopping bag with a piece of fabric. So you place this in a triangle on the reverse side, so kind of on the back end, because then you're going to reverse the knotting. So the trick is to keep it proportional. I have my triangle here. So I'm going to go kind of to the end. Bring the fabric together and kind of wrap around and do a knot. So it's about halfway. Then you're going to do the same with the other side. And the idea is to keep it kind of even on the proportions. So I have pretty much the same amount of fabric from both sides taken. Then I'm going to flip the fabric. So this is the more colorful side. And then depending on what you're going to be transporting. So in this case, let's say that the items that are not too big. So I'm just going to make the knot a little bit lower here. So you place the knot on the inside, bring it in, give it some room to follow the flow of the fabric. Then you're going to make a double knot on the top. So let's say that perhaps you are going to a picnic and you are bringing the bottle of wine or a couple of drinks plus some appetizers in a bento box. So you can go place this one here. Place this one here. Maybe some books to enjoy some leisure time. And you have a sack that you can change size at any given time by the amount of fabric that you take on each knotting. And you can place it on your shoulder and travel with it as well. Another thing that you can do with the same basic is that once you have this much done with the design, instead of use it as it is, you roll the fabric multiple times, and that's going to kind of make it shrink a little bit. So it looks more like a bowl, and you have more room here on the end. So you can go this way, or you can place it on your shoulder too if you like it shorter and closer to your body. And all you have to do is open up here and place the materials that you're going to be transporting. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that you can do with a piece of a square fabric. And you don't have to be a seamstress. You don't have to be a designer. You can make amazing things just like magic with a piece of a square cloth. Any other questions? I'm going to show one more trick in how to make a handbag. This time, it's going to be with a pair of brass rings. So let's say that perhaps you got tailor-made a dress and you end up with some extra fabric that you don't know what to do with it. Well, this is a great way how to repurpose leftover material. So I'm going to use a fairly small size furoshiki. This one is 23 inches square. So this particular furoshiki, it was gifted to me. It was done by a friend of the lady who makes the furoshikis for me here locally. And it's orange in the fabric, but it has a little bit of a stretchy feel to it. And I don't know if you can see it through the lens, but actually it has a poem written by this person. So it has a little extra meaning on the furoshiki, not only because it was designed by one particular person, but this individual had fondness for poetry. So she got that poem print on the fabric. So there are two ways how you can do this. I have two rings made of brass. So one way that you can do is take on one side the two ends, bring it this way, and kind of wrap it to the front and make a double knot. Then you do the same thing on the other side with the other two remaining points. And always try to keep in mind like the same amount of fabric that you took from the other side so things keep even and proportionate. And then you adjust. So here you have your handbag. So let's say that I want to transport this. Any questions about any particular wrapping? Anything that you want me to review a second time? We're running on 8:01, so I want to be mindful about everybody's time, and we can open for Q&A.
If there are any questions, you can unmute yourself if you guys want to.
And I'm just going to kind of showcase all the different wrappings and do a one more time kind of show and tell.
Did anybody make anything in this time that they want to show?
I'm happy to go over one-on-one if anybody has a particular request.
It's so time efficient too. I feel like you did all of those much faster than I could wrap like one present in regular wrapping paper. Like I feel like once you know how to, yeah, I feel like once you know how to do it, you just do it real quick and you're done. No tape, no scissors, no nothing.
And it makes you look like a rock star within few minutes. You know, there's no room for screwing up on this technique because the fabric is very forgiving.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a quick show and tell of all the different wrappings. So this is the tenugui with the chopsticks. This is another tenugui, which is the rectangular piece of fabric with a handle in the middle, a ring made with the same fabric. This is an hexagon box. These are the two books with the handle. This one of the many different ways that you can do a bottle wrapping. This is a square box with the accent. This is envelope style of gift wrapping for a book or a picture frame. And you can add a greeting card or extra things. Like, for example, I have a butterfly here. So if you want to add a little something here as an extra decor, you can do something like this. This is another way how to do a book or a picture frame. But for this kind of wrapping, you need much more material than the proportions that I gave before for the 1/3 of the measurement on the material for the item to be wrapped. And then this is the handbag. Any questions about a particular style of wrapping that anybody wants to review? And I can do one more. So this one is for a rectangular shape. Place the furoshiki kind of on a diamond shape. The rectangular goes in the middle. So I'm going to bring the fabric on the larger side and do a double knot. I think that a smaller size furoshiki might work better. Let's see. Yeah, this one's gonna work better. This is a bandana, by the way. So you go first on the larger side, just one time, keep the tension, and then you're gonna go opposite sides. So you're gonna tie up this with this. And always pay attention to details at the end. So you do the same thing on the opposite side, so you end up with two bows. So this is another way how to wrap, and you end up with two bows instead of one. Any other questions or suggestions? Anything that somebody would like to review a second time? Ellen, do you want me to do any more wrappings?
I think that we're good. Do you want to just tell people how to maybe connect with you outside of this?
Oh, yes, that it will be lovely. So feel free to reach out via Facebook, and you can contact me by my performing name, which is Etnia Fusion by Nefertiti in Facebook, ETNIA FUSION by Nefertiti, NEFERTITI. You can send me a private message if you want to be creative and take pictures of your designs and whatever you come up with, ideas for your seasonal gift wrapping. I would love to see what you are presenting out to the world, and tag me. I would love to connect. So let's keep the party going for the next few weeks.
All right, great. I'm sending the link to your Facebook page in the group so everybody can see it. And then again, everybody, if I should probably put my camera back on, shouldn't I, so you can see me.
Any chance that you can do the viewing like everybody on the screen so I can see smiley faces and it doesn't feel so virtual?
I think you have to do that on your end.
Oh, okay, let me come around the camera then.
Anybody want to turn on their camera and just say hello?
Don't be shy. I like friendly faces. Let's see.
You see on the top corner, there should be a button that has little squares on it.
Virtual background, meeting settings.
It says, it's a little button on the top right. It says gallery view. If you click it.
I don't have that option on my end. Gallery view. I have mute, stop video, share screen. Participants.
Should be on the top of the whole screen.
No, maybe because I am not like on the host setting.
Well, a few people have dipped out, so I think it's okay. Thank you, Matt, for showing your face. Hello. But I think that we are probably good to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody who's here, for coming. Thank you, Nefertiti, so much. I think this was a really great program. Thank you for all your help and your insight on this art that I think was new to everybody. So thank you so much.
Delighted to share my craft with other people. Thanks for everybody to attend on a Tuesday night and bring on the party. And again, I would love to connect outside the library platform. So send me a note and pictures, and I love to see if you get creative making your own furoshiki or if you get hands-on on a specialty items. Either way, just share with the world.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks again. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. It's fun to watch.
Bye.
Thank you.